Sunday Motivations has turned into a very casual conversation to a very impactful, meaningful conversation that we're sharing with all. So it is now a podcast. Today's quote is brought to us by Samantha Foster. And the quote today is that we cannot create a new future by holding on to the emotions of past. So Sam, today, Sunday Motivations, the floor is yours. Unmute yourself.
Oh, I wonder Zoom got her again. Sometimes those upgrades aren't an upgrade.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the first time we do this, Zoom got us.
Yeah. I ain't gonna talk bad about Zoom while I'm on Zoom, but
I'm not gonna talk about it.
There it is. I see you moving.
All right, so we're gonna cut to, since we get a chance to edit this.
Can you do audio only, or can you call in?
Sam.
Okay, I think you guys really spotty. You know what? It's my internet. So okay, let's do audio. Let me see here. Okay.
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna send you the.
So maybe that will work.
No. You gotta call this number.
That will.
And use the telephone line. Mr. Telephone Man, something's wrong with my line.
All right, let us know when she gets on. Thanks for that, Bruce.
Oh yeah, man. You gotta adapt, improvise, overcome.
Bruce, you got to send me a text when you're doing your stuff, because I see it after the fact. I'd like to join in with you.
Yep. Give me 1 second. I will get you on the reminders list. Let me see. How do I do that?
And Deja, just to let you know, we normally start at 9 o'clock, but Sam's father was in a bad motorcycle accident. And he went from Arizona to Oregon to take care of him, and they're in the country.
Gotcha.
But not the country, like the country. The KORANTR.
Well, the only thing that I've learned recently, if you're from any parts of Atlanta and you say country, they're offended. They don't like being called country.
Really?
Yes. So don't say country to anyone from Atlanta.
Now everybody in the state of Georgia want to be from Atlanta. Could be from Valdosta, Augusta, Rome. It's all Atlanta.
I just heard that there was a brand new city of 6,000 people that have been named in Georgia, and 86% of the population are Black.
Yeah, they're building a new Black Wall Street down there.
Yeah.
It's about less than an hour from Atlanta. There you go.
Oh, you're familiar.
Hey, Sam, you're going to need to hop off the computer, or you're going to create a feedback loop. Oh, yeah, I love Atlanta. That's my second home.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
There we go. Second time's the charm.
All right. So we're going to do a take two on
take two. Okay.
Introduction. So Sam, you can hear, right?
I can hear you guys just fine. Yes.
Okay, we can hear you too. So we're gonna go take two. All right. So Deja, my ADHD, when you see me go 1, 2, 3, I'm really counting, 3, 2, 1. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this. All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Motivations with Kevin and Friends. This episode is brought to you by RMK Productions and 10 United, the podcast network. Our mission is to uplift, inspire, share stories and experiences through perspectives using the framework of teaching, learning, and modeling. Our purpose is very simple: hope, helping other people every single day. Today, our quote is brought to us by Miss Samantha Foster. Guys, screw that up. I'm going to go take 3. All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another edition, the Sunday Motivations with Kevin and Friends. Today's episode is brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. Our mission is to uplift, inspire, share stories and experience using the perspectives of teaching, learning, and modeling. Our purpose is very simple: helping other people every day. We come together every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with a group of friends that are highly intelligent, personally committed to making a difference in the world. And we bring a quote, either created by ourselves or a quote that has landed on us. And based on our interpretations and perceptions, we create a conversation. Everyone participates, everyone is on camera. Today, Samantha Foster has brought us a quote by Joe Dispenza, and it says, "We cannot create a new future by holding on to the emotions of the past." Samantha, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And you guys can hear me clearly, I hope.
Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Perfect. So I love this quote, and it's really has changed my life. Dr. Joe Dispenza and a lot of his teachings, and it's understanding what emotions are. It's energy in motion. And when we're holding on to the same emotions that we grew up with, especially when they're negative, then what we do is we are continuing to live in the past. And what that really means, to put it into a perspective, is that as we're having the same emotions with the same people, or we're taking those emotions and applying it to new events, we recreate those events to turn out exactly what has happened in the past. And that's why so many of us continue to live in the same cycle, the same habit. So it's all about really us living in the future, living in the present, meaning that each person that we meet, each event or circumstance that we go into, come into it without a judgment. Going into that meeting, going into that event, without letting the past emotions, whatever may have happened in the past, really affect the outcome of what's going to happen in that present moment. We're not going to recreate a new future until we're really detached from those events in the past. We're going to continue to recreate the past, so our future will be very predictable. That means we're going to have to get out of our comfort zone. That means that we're going to have to really detach from those circumstances and from, maybe even some of the people that's been in our past, really given us a very negative experience, and know that this experience today doesn't have to be that. We can live a new future, but it is extremely difficult at times. And I'm going to give you guys a really good example. One of the things that Tony Robbins has said is that people don't change unless it's painful enough, unless they have suffered enough, and then they bring about a change. And this gentleman came to him for help, and he was addicted to cigarettes. He smoked for many, many years, and he associated an emotion of comfort with cigarettes. So no matter how many times that he tried to quit, knowing that cigarettes was negative and that it was going to lead to lung cancer, and he wanted to change that habit, he kept on going back to cigarettes because he associated it with comfort. So what Tony did one day with him was he had the guy buy a whole carton of cigarettes, and he made him smoke. And there's a story behind it, but he made him smoke the whole carton. By the end of that 1 hour session, so can you imagine smoking a whole carton of cigarettes in 1 hour? By the end of that session, the guy was not just terrified to pick up a cigarette, but he was extremely sick. So what happened is that he associated an emotion of fear and something that was negative and feeling sick with that cigarette, and he never smoked again. So all of our habits and what we do and how we create the future is really by what we think is what we associate, what emotion that we associate with an event, with a person, with a circumstance. So it's about breaking that that association with that emotion and really live in a non-judgmental present moment, where we're not associating something from the past with what's happening today. And that's really what it means by living in the present, but not judging. Come into it without a judgment, so that we can have a new experience going forward and really changing our future. So this is Samantha, and I'm done speaking.
Samantha, thank you so much for not only bringing the quote, but also bringing such an inspiring share. When you were sharing the story of Tony Robbins, I had to smile, because I remember when my sister Tammy first got caught smoking. My father brought us all in. It was 5 of us at that time living in our house. And he made us all sit down, and he gave us all a little wad of what's called brown mule chewing tobacco.
Ooh,
and he made each one of us put that in our mouth and chew it. Not knowing exactly what it was and why I was being punished also, I held it in on the side of my cheek and watched each one of my siblings empty the contents of their stomach as they chewed and swallowed. And I was refusing to swallow, because I already knew what the outcome would be. So I kind of know what that experience is like. And I outlasted my dad, and as my mouth filled up with fluid, but I refused to swallow. But when it gets around to my time, I'll share a much deeper experience on how I connect with that. And because we have someone brand new, Deja, I'm not going to let you go second. I'm going to go ahead and let Bruce, even though my Southern upbringing always says women first. But we want to make sure that you feel welcome and comfortable, because we like to have you come back. So, Brother Bruce Hill, we cannot create a new future by holding on to the emotions of the past, by Mr. Joe Dispenza. How's that land with you?
It reminds me of one of the time I was selling cars, and one of my favorite memories, this guy comes in to buy a car, and of course most people don't have extra 20 grand sitting around to buy a car, so they got to finance it, right? So you find something he likes, and I give him an estimate on what the payment will be, and I said, hey, we got to look at, are you gonna pay cash? He said, no, we got to look at financing. Well, you see his emotion shift. He's like, nah, we can't finance it. I was like, okay, we have some of the the best teams in the world. What's the problem? He's like, nope, we can't do it. It's not gonna work. I'm gonna get declined. I never get approved, and like all these negative emotions, right? Because his memory was, whenever he tried to get credit, it was declined. And I said, well, when's the last time you applied for credit? He's like, oh, I haven't used credit for 15 years. I was like, okay, I understand that. So are you going to buy cash? He said, no. I said, all right, well, then do you want the car? He said, yes. I said, then you got to finance. And we go back and forth for probably 8 to 10 minutes. I'll spare you the details. But eventually I showed him, I was like, what you want is on the other side of this application. If you're denied, I'll admit you're right. But if you're approved, you're going to take it home. He's like, oh, well, I'm not going to get approved. I'm not going to get approved. I'm like, all right. So we finally walked through it. And he didn't even realize he had a tier 1 credit rating. He got approved. Not only did he have a single digit interest rate, was 0 down. And that story is one of my favorites. Obviously, I've remembered all these years because there's so many times where we don't try something because we remember how it went last time, or we think we remember what happened to someone else. Oh no, my cousin tried that, it didn't work. And there is something to be said for learning from other people's mistakes. However, sometimes we forget to learn from other people's success. And we have to be careful in our present and create a new future that we don't go off of old information, that we don't go off of old habits, off of old beliefs, off of old memories. And that's something that I have to do. There's so many examples that come to mind, but I remember, and I was telling folks, I'm like, hey, we have to turn left here. We can't go right. I'm back in my hometown where I grew up after 10, 11 years. And they said, no, you can turn right now. You could just go straight through. You don't have to take the detour around. So what do you mean? They said, oh, they built a road. Since you left, they built a whole new parkway. So you can just go from A to C. You don't have to go the circuitous route. And I was going off of old information. And it's the same with my employment, with building a business, with coaching, with relationships. I think relationships is a big one, because if you use your old paradigm for old relationships, you're going to get those same results. So to get new results, you have to have new thinking. So I love this quote. Joe Dispenza is one of my favorite thinkers. I got to get to his books one of these days. You can't create a new future that way. This one's good. This was good. This one hit me right between the ears.
Bullseye, right between the ears. That 6 to 8 inch space that's measured on each and every last one of us. Thank you for your share. And Deja, all right, our youngest friend, about to embark on life, about to become, I don't know, sophomore, junior year in college.
Senior.
Senior year, about to take that big step, about to find out how many times your dreams are going to be redefined until you actually step in it and you find out your why. So Deja, you cannot connect to a new future by holding on to the emotions of past, by Joe Dispenza. You've heard conversations from a bunch of old heads, okay? You're sitting at the big kids table now. Yeah, I said it wrong, I remember. We cannot create a new future by holding on to the emotions of the past. How does that land with you? And please share.
First thing I can think of is when when the pandemic hit and, college was shut down, and I was just like, okay, cool. I don't have to go to class anymore. I was so excited. But then I'm like, okay, where am I going to go? I kind of don't want to go back home to my grandmother's house. So, but at the time I was talking to my aunt and uncle that live in Delaware. So I stayed with them for that summer. And of course, like, been my aunt and uncle since I was born, but it was a new dynamic. I had to get used to how they were as people in their own home, including my two cousins. And my aunt and uncle and their kids are very blunt. And I wasn't used to that. I was very shy, but with living with them, I feel like I had that space to be a little bit more open. And because of that, when I got back to school, I felt like a new person. I had like more confidence. I felt like even if I had a little bit of doubt on something, like I tried to speak positive on it and still like push forward and like try it anyway. I feel like that was the biggest, that little year was the biggest change for me, because I feel like before I would always be too scared to try things, and mainly because of my aunt. She would always encourage me to just do it. I mean, if you're already expecting something to fail, why not just try it and see it? And if you get it, then that's better for you. So yeah, overall for me, it was just like my confidence was boosted. I feel like I talk more positively to myself, and I feel like that's something that a lot of people need to do, because how you talk to yourself is it really affects like your everyday narrative, and it affects your outcomes, the people that come with you, like just like literally everything. Like I feel like a new person just because I put myself out that comfort zone by listening to my aunt and trying new things. And I mean, getting out my comfort zone ended up brought me here. I would just like, let me just send a text over to Kevin, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I'm here, and that means it worked. So just really pushing yourself out that comfort zone, like all you can hope for is the best. And if you get the best, then I mean, that's the best thing you can get. So yeah.
You know, from the mouth of babes, you know, I always
Yo, you
learn.
gotta talk. You gotta stop with the age talk, bro.
Yeah,
I'm gonna call you out.
you
Yo,
feel free to call me out. I am always impressed when I talk to young people, and I sit on there with a open mind and a freshness of saying, taking in this information. I used to be one of these young people, and Bruce, when you get to the point you've been on this earth as long as I have, and you sound just like my youngest son, is that, you know, old people are always reflecting. Even though I don't feel old, I don't act old, but you know, being on this planet for 62 years of age and having memories and conversations with impacting people for over 40 years, um, you know, I kind of reserve that right to that seat to kind of go ahead and pass on some of that knowledge. So go ahead and embrace this conversation and challenge it as you wish.
I'm just
But
saying that wisdom isn't a function of age.
go
The
ahead,
only
talk to me.
reason, the only reason we feel like, as you put it, younger folk surprises to their wisdoms because we don't listen to them. They have lots of wisdom to share. They have lots of wisdom to share. And that's one thing that I've discovered as I pass through time. It don't make me any smarter just because I did a couple revolutions around the sun. But the wisdom of the experiences, whether it's a few in a short period of time or one over a long period of time, that's where we can add value to each other's conversation. So I love what Deja said. So that's all you can do is try. If it works, it works, right? You know, that takes some people 62 years to figure it out, and they never figure it out. So while I definitely want to give her some credit for being ahead of the curve, like we're not going to limit her on how old she is. And we're
Yeah.
not going to limit you on how old you are.
All right, you're exactly right. And what I would say to Deja is that, you know, part of being a part of this conversation, we got to get the world ready for you because you have greatness within you, and we appreciate you showing up in this space. And you know, when I first read the quote when Samantha submitted it, we cannot create a new future by holding on to the emotions of the past. I realized that a lot of people, even listening to this, are trapped. They're trapped in an experience, an emotional experience based on a relationship that either did not quite go their way. They're either in a situation when they show up and they put in their 42 hours, and that experience of showing up and leaving during the day leaves them with feeling a kind of way, and they keep saying that they're never going back and they keep showing up. Or we look at the world and we question, why hasn't anything changed? And then we fast forward to what's known as the cancel culture. Instead of being able to face the truth and what it is, we seem to want to have it disappear or have the messenger disappear because we're not open for the message.
We on the same page on that one.
Yeah. And believe it or not, I always say when I'm speaking, none of us have an original story. And what I mean by
That
that,
is something that's amusing. It's almost always repetitions of the same, so reiterations of the same story.
You're exactly
seen it
right.
too.
The
I've never seen
only thing that's original, location, and the cast of characters that are involved in your life. And what makes it
Mm,
meaningful or life changing are based on two things: chance and choice. We all wake up with the same opportunities every single day to either live a very dynamic life or live trapped in a life that we haven't lived. Our actions support what opportunities that are presented to us, or the lack of opportunities that we don't take. And that's based on choice. I say from experience, if you live your life with an alcoholic figure in your life, and you wake up and you decide when you have control of your own life that that's not a road you're going to take, you free yourself from that emotional experience. If the male or female role model in your life is not exactly the person that you want to be, you have two choices. You either duplicate what you've been taught, or you put out in the world something different in what you've caught. We're all at a crossroad every single moment of our life of basically either heading straight towards our dream or our purpose, or being distracted. We either turn right, we turn left, or we choose to stand exactly where we are, where nothing's changed. And my grandfather used to say, no one wants to come to a pity party. Those pity parties are the things that you create that make events appear to be real. Fear. We don't take choices because we don't believe. I can't have because look at me, I'm different. I'm not tall, I'm not, musically inclined. I'm not this, whatever. I've got a learning disability. Well, I'm a personal example of all of those excuses not being excuses in order to frame my life. Surround yourself with people that are going to places that you want to go. Surround yourself with people that have conversations that resonate and support the conversations you have. And I always say, surround yourself with people that will give you the truth. There's one thing that I like about Sunday Motivations with Kevin and Friends is that every single time that Bruce Hill, Samantha, and some of our other friends have been in there's always been a truth. I remember a couple of weeks ago, I brought my grandson in, and I was about to let him off the hook, and Bruce said, no. Let's go ahead. Let's dive into this a little deeper. That's what your real friends will do. Your real friends will hold you to the truth because they're protecting your heart. I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard this, that the truth will set you free. My grandmother used to always say that. And when you talk about your future, you can't move forward if you're walking backwards. The past will always hold you back. The past will drown you. The past will smother you. The past will support your mental illness, your depression. But how you give life is to allow something to germinate within your soul, nurture it, support it, and watch it grow. So I'm taking that comment, and hopefully something I said will resonate. And before we sign off, Sam, anything you want to leave to our listeners, and I'll go around the table before we allow Deja to come back and give us the quote for next week. You didn't see that comment, did you?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I did want to say about a wisdom, I know I didn't want to jump in there without, I didn't want to interrupt the conversation flow, but wisdom is not dependent upon age. Wisdom is the knowledge in action. We can have as much knowledge as, Albert Einstein or, some of these great leaders. But unless we're living it, practicing it, it really doesn't become wisdom. So it really has no bearing on age. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And I hear so many people sharing so much knowledge. As you said, we're repeating what so many masters have already said. But we need to look at each other's life and see how we're actually living on a day in and day out basis. Where are we at in life? And that's really indicative of our wisdom. How much are we really pulling this knowledge that we have into action? It always starts with our emotions. One of the things that I have learned, and as difficult as it is to change our habits, and sometimes we are blinded to those habits, is really breaking that emotion with a past circumstance and not bringing it into the future. So as we're recreating our future, it's really dependent upon our actions today. And that's what becomes wisdom. And that's when we really can explain and show the knowledge and the wisdom in the things that we share online or just with, our friends. So yeah, that's all I had to say. So I'll pass the mic back to you, Kevin.
Bruce, any closing?
My call to action is always the same. Do something with the conversation you hear today. Don't just listen and forget it. Live it.
Deja.
Well, something you said that that the story is not different. We're all living pretty much the same story. First thing I thought of was social media, because I feel like a lot of the times you see all these little posts and everybody in the comments are saying like, oh my gosh, we're literally living the same childhood. And I thought it's so funny how we're all saying we're living the same childhood, yet we kind of judge each other all the time. And it's like, why do we do that, knowing that, like, we all know we're going through struggles, yet we're like damaging each other and causing even more struggles in each other's lives. So I feel like that's something that people need to realize, especially how you mentioned, like, with cancel culture. Like, why are we canceling these people? If we're supposed to be in this age of enlightenment, why aren't we teaching them? We shouldn't be canceling them just because. And I feel like a lot of people are just canceling just because, oh, somebody else is doing it. It's like, why? We're trying to be better than the ones before. So why not teach each other and even like the older generations how to be better individuals? So literally when you said that was the first thing that came to my mind. So yeah. Thank
you. Well, I'm going to tell you the cancel culture has been created, especially for our people, for centuries. You stood up, you got tarred and feathered, you got maimed, you were torn apart, you were shut down, or whatever. I say this all the time: that education is not designed to make you comfortable. It's designed to make you think. The conversations we're having here, I'm going to try to end, but I'm going to share a story that happened to me recently. I tell my partners all the time, because now that we're in the public and having these conversations, that people have a tendency to not to want to see you blossom and grow. So they will find some reason to hold you back, to pull you where they are, because that's where their comfort zone is. Someone reached out to me on social media and said, "Do you remember me?" I had no recollection of who this person was. And it could be because they're not present in my life, and it could be because of the concussion I suffered. Good to head out. So long story short, 60 years later, she's been holding a grudge from first grade. Said that I said some unpleasant things to her. I pulled her hair and everything else, and I was never nice. And she said of all the other people that weren't very nice to her in the first grade, she basically held true to something I did and held everyone else to another standard. I had not seen this person since the first grade that I remember. And I said, from the way that this sounds, it sounds like a little boy liked you, not someone that hated you. Because when a dude has no game, what does he do? He does something stupid. And so it's just the way that we looked at things, interpretation and perspective. Just the same way this conversation is, it's going to be perceived to be one way by one person, and another person is going to say, you don't know my circumstances. And I agree, don't know your circumstances. I would also say, if you didn't live with an alcoholic, you don't know what an alcoholic lives like. You can only know what it reads, what you read. You live with a highly intelligent person that's very strong and forthwith. You learn structure and everything else. And sometimes we push against that framework of what we've been taught. But we all seem to loop around to finding out and discovering our own truth. So you either add something to your life and make a deposit in this world, or you take away that was put into your world. And remember what it's like to be a child. Child comes in this world, no one excuses them for pooping and peeing in their pants. It's okay, they don't get canceled. A child goes through and they pull out things and pull down things, and no one causes a big ruckus and said that you should be incarcerated for the rest of your life. A child wisdom follows one question: why? 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 And until we find out and discover what that why is and put it out into the world, we're always going to have to identify with either where we're going or where we've been. So on that note, I want to thank everyone again for sharing this space. We meet here every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.